we're going to start today by talking about Trump.
What else? That is the topic.
Okay, so Trump's path to lower housing costs has to navigate local concerns. This is coming from Housingwire.
Yeah.
Now, at the very forefront here, I want to remind everyone, we talked about this last year.
Yeah.
We said the localization and the localization of municipal decisions regarding housing, whether it's the government land being opened up to be used for development, or it's loosening restrictions of bureaucratic steps to, or red tape or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's going to be some element of this where it's local, state, and federal. And already, week one of the brand new administration, you have this.
Yeah.
Ordering the heads of all executive departments and agencies to deliver emergency relief consistent with applicable law to the American people due to high prices of homes.
Yeah.
One of the things that's commonly blamed here is regulatory requirements, which can account for, the estimate is 25% of the cost of constructing a new home. Some of that stuff is like, okay, you need that. Like there are safety standards and there are reasons you have permitting. It's hard to argue that we should go without that, right?
Yeah. But I mean, it's really what is implying is how are we going to lower these costs so it doesn't cost the builders that much, or how do we incentivize them enough to want to go out there and be proactive and start building, right? Because we go back to the shortage of homes that we concluded that maybe about a month ago we were like 5 to 6 million homes in shortage.
Yeah.
And that's not to account for the dilapidated homes that we see out there. Mm-hmm. Grant Cardone, I'm not sure if many of you guys know that, but he said we have approximately 25 million dilapidated homes.
I didn't see that.
Yes.
That's a lot.
So that's a lot. So when you consider the 5 to 6 million, we're like 30 to 31 million. We have, what did Trump say is our population? People say it's 350 million, but that's because a lot of people are probably unaccounted for. So put it closer to 330 million people.
So what you're saying is that there's already a shortage of supply anyways, like 4 to 5 million homes that we should have been able to have made and just weren't built. Okay. Then on top of that, you're saying maybe it's 20 million to 25 million. The Grant Cardone saying is like what we call deferred maintenance, which is really dilapidated homes. They really just need to be like brought up to code.
Well, not only brought up to code, it's people that just neglected the home and just, hey, I couldn't pay. And we're not just talking about here in San Diego.
Trying to be decent.
Yeah, I know, but let's go. I mean, we used to see those. You know what's funny, Andy? Prior to many years back, I used to see them quite a bit. They were just, you would drive by and you would see all these windows boarded up, people not living in there. And so one of the things was give them a call. But at that time, fix and flip wasn't as popular as it is now. Now those homes are actually here, depending on your area, they're selling.
I'm not sure if you heard one of our friends say this. Miguel Contreras says, if you drive by a house and the weeds are taller than me, you're standing in the middle of a referral for me. That person needs to sell that
Please
house.
Call me. Get a bird dog out there.
He's like, if you can see the windows and they're boarded up, so your boarded up window comment made me think of that. So shout out to Miguel real quick. If the weeds in the yard are taller than him, you are standing in the middle of a referral for him. So I know regulatory issues are part of the problem.
Of course.
And we're not even talking about insurance here. This is just straight building code, local code, municipality codes and all that. But we talked about this last year. There's going to be some sort of there has to be some symbiotic relationship between what the federal government's saying, oh, we want you to do this. But then it comes down to the local level. And every city or county has their own kind of ways of doing things. And a lot of this type of conversation is going to be coming up because of what happened in L.A.
Of course.
And all the various agencies you have to get approvals for to rebuild something that's on the coastline. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but I mean, if you don't know about that, anybody, there are new, I want to say up to 18 different agencies you have to get clearances for to build along the coastline of California. And Palisades includes part of that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go there, but it's an example of even, here in Chula Vista, National City, Santee, wherever, there's going to be building codes that the city is going to put upon you that they expect you to handle.
Exactly. And you're talking about every state has its own, local authorities that, permitting, they have to go through a certain process of permitting and et cetera. And now with these fires, at least here in our local area, I'm sure they're going to consider all that and try to get, materials that are almost fire resistant. But at the same time, that's why we go here and it says some of these initiatives include a program that pays municipalities $10,000 per unit to quickly issue permits for multifamily projects. I mean, that's a start, right?
That's a great start.
It doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're talking about several properties, several units, it adds up to being a lot.
It can be, and it also depends on where you're at.
Yeah.
Now, building a 4-unit complex in San Diego is different than building a 4-unit complex somewhere in like Nebraska, for example. Now, 10,000 per unit in Nebraska will be different than it is here.
Absolutely.
Now, I know material costs are somewhat similar because the cost of lumber is mostly fixed.
Yeah.
The cost of nails is going to be mostly fixed. The cost of labor is going to vary depending on what state you're in, what county, and all that kind of stuff. And I'll say experience level, and licensing level. But at least it's something. I'm not going to say that it's the end all be all, but at least it's something. Back to your incentive point. There has to be some incentives, and this might be a good one.
Well, it goes back to not go back. It continues on saying there is also a demolition program which helps community and developers pay the cost of renovation or tear down dilapidated structures. There we go, dilapidated, more than just neglect, right?
Yeah.
And replace them with housing.
Yeah.
So that's just to tell you, we're trying to go in there. We really want to fix the communities. We really want to bring homes up and be able to provide more housing. Therefore, we have more stability with housing as we construct more.
Similar and maybe potentially a little bit unrelated but related is recently in my networking group, we just inducted a junk haul remover. In our chapter, the first week he had 5 referrals.
Of course,
people were like, "Oh, I
have your junk.
I need your help," or I have someone in my family that needs, or one of my neighbors needs junk hauling. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy!" We're like, no, you have no idea. And then another friend of ours who left California and moved to Tennessee started a junk hauling, and he has 40 roll-off dumpsters now.
And I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he was in the credit repair, and now
yes. So, okay, the other thing is, and then they mentioned something else, which was the state's Housing Opportunity Program encourages communities to proactively review their zoning ordinances and public service offerings before development questions are even on the table.
Yeah.
I think some combination of all these things is what's going to end up happening.
Of course.
The effectiveness, of course, is going to be at the local, the state, and the federal level. There's only so many things you can enact at the federal level that are going to have... what am I trying to say? Like a proportionate value's worth of weight at the local level. By the time it gets all the way down to the local level, it can be great on the surface and it might look like a good idea and it may have minimal impact or it may have great impact. A lot of it has to do with where you're at.
Yeah, of course, And so I'm just glad that it goes on to also even talking to the FHA, right? To HUD, mortgage insurance.
Yes.
Lower those things costs, like just allow the new home buyers to come in there, provide some type of incentive.
And here's I think something that, and it didn't really describe it this way in the article, but I think the essence of this is, hey, listen, all you departments, come up with an idea for me to put my teeth in, sink my teeth into, and let's deploy some of these things and see if they work. Because housing just isn't concrete and wood and nails and roof and all that. Yeah. It's a lot of other things. It does have a loan side to it. It does have an insurance side to it. It does have a realtor side to it. And so you have like National Association of Realtors, National Association of Home Builders. You have the MBA, the Mortgage Bankers Association. Kind of everyone doing some advocacy for this, advocacy for that, and because it's kind of come down as a command, there's going to have to be some sort of creative solutions in this.
Exactly.
And I'm here for it, I guess, is my kind of bottom line for Andy is.
Yeah, and how fast are they going to implement these things? We don't know.
I think it depends on what it is. Yeah. Right? Because also, it's important to remember that some of these agencies, they have statutes they have to follow. Yeah. So if they have a statute that's, a new rule has to be voted this way before it can be implemented, and then it's a 6-month wait period, there's all that kind of stuff too. That's
no, you know what, Andy? Really what it is there's just so much tit for tat, right? You're Republican, you're Democrat. There's too much. We got to remove that.
Yeah.
We just got to go with what's right to minimize the time that it's going to take for us to pass through these certain situations, these barriers that we always continue to put, you know? Let's just get along. Let's just move on. This is what's best for our nation. This is what's best for the consumer, the new homeowner that wants to step in.
Yeah.
Why make home ownership on average be 38? Right? You're 38 years old the average person buys a home at 38.
Right.
Why do we have this affordability crisis entering into 2025? Because home prices are so high, because interest rates are so high. Sorry, I'm getting all into it, but it's just what it is. What do we do to fix that? Let's combine efforts at the government level, and let's just come to an understanding and agreement, and let's get this thing done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'm with you. The partisan nature of a lot of this is discouraging. It's just it's just disappointing, right? Yeah. And here's the other thing. I'm going to say this too, regardless of how I might feel about certain other topics. Like I also don't want to. I don't want to hear the victory lap.
Yeah.
Like you do something good, like that's great. You're kind of supposed to.
Yeah.
Like that's your job. You're supposed to serve the people. So I don't really want to hear the victory lap either. Even if the victory lap is good, that's fine. But like that, you put your nose to the grindstone. You're telling people to do this stuff. Go do it.
Get it done.
Yeah. And I think I was just making sure I understood. You're referring to the age at which people are buying their first time home now.
Correct.
First time home buyers now, the average age is 38.
Yeah, it's increased.
It used to be in like the 20s, wasn't
exactly.
it? Exactly. Or early 30s, something. I don't remember the number.
No, it was in the 20s, and then it just started increasing.
I actually have a key point about. I didn't know that. I'm gonna have a key point at the on one of our other articles. I'm gonna bring up and talk about that because I actually, I'll save my point. I had one more thing about this I wanted to share, and I don't know, you probably have other things too, but one of the things I know that has been a problem that's plagued specifically here in California is when homeownership costs were rising, it was kind of house prices were well outpacing the ability for insurance premiums to chase the equivalent cost of replacement. And I think that is still something that is going to be an issue because premiums are not right now able to keep the pace with the increase of like the cost of lumber. Just for an easy example, when lumber was up 30%, your premium and replacement costs can't go up 30% right away because there's these regulatory issues. I think some of that's still got to get figured out. Cost of labor increased approximately 37.4% over the last 5 years. Well, what do you do about that? If you can't increase your recapture cost by more than 10% in any given 6-month period, when are you going to catch up to 37% running ahead of you, right? So, I like at the top, there's these ideas. I like that they're saying to the departments, come up with some suggestions and do something. I like that because if there's going to be some force on that and then I expect there to be some accountability, then great. Maybe we should expect some answers. And then because of that kind of like, say, allowance upstream, I think it's going to be a good time for cities and developers to kind of come back to the table and come up with some solutions. Yeah. I'm optimistic about that, even though I sound like I still have some skepticism and some hesitation. Because I know I sound both ways. I know, I'm admitting it. Like, I know.
Because you're talking about other organizations and stuff. Here it is. In May 2024, the NAHB released its 10-point blueprint to address the housing affordability crisis. Some proposed solutions included eliminating excessive regulations. It's what happens. I mean, I'm going through my permit process. You know how long it took? Just for a simple, so I get this. Overturning inefficient local zoning rules, passing federal tax legislative to expand the production of affordable and attainable housing, and easing supply chain burdens by doing things like boosting the production or of solely needed transformers and other materials. Ending tariffs in Canada, right? I mean, we get a lot of our lumber there. What's going to happen
and we get electronics from China, and it's
like all these things are going to have effect. So we need to come up with some compromise here.
Yeah, the meeting of the minds, though, I think is being spurned, which I'm glad to see. And it's also interesting to see this kind of like right out the gate because it's an issue that a lot of people are talking about. It's an issue that I know a lot of people in the media, frankly, didn't want to talk about because it's a little bit of a black eye. And there's people that are probably watching this in the comments like, "Oh, everything's fine. What are you talking about?" Okay, whatever. Like don't come talk to me about inflation. We're going to go to class. Anyways, my point in saying that is that, I want there to be some meeting of the minds. I want there to be solutions for people. I would love for the first-time home buyer age to be back down in the 20s again. I would love for homeownership to go to still be a single-family home rather than, you got to have a, one door and a fourplex that's yours now. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's just that's not what the traditional American dream was. It was, house, white picket fence, that kind of thing. And it would be awesome to see a return to that.
This is a positive step moving forward. This is very positive information and news. It's good to hear. It's refreshing to hear. Now let's just get it done.
Okay.